Complete a table of values for y equals cosine of x for the domain 0 degrees, less than or equal to x, less than or equal to 360 degrees. Give your answer to 2 decimal places when necessary. Plot the points. Graph y equals cosine of x on your graphing calculator using the following window settings. And complete the graph by joining the points. So first we're going to put in a grid. This is where we're going to be graphing the cosine of x. Put it there. And the first thing we're asked to do is to create a table of values for y equals cosine of x. So we're going to have the independent variable here is x. So it's going to be like x here. And then we have y equals cosine of x. So we're going to need our graphing calculator. And we want to make sure that we are using degrees as the unit for measuring angles. I have reset my calculator here, which means that it will revert back to the default angular measures of radian. So I need to change that. So I'm going to press the mode button. And on the third row, radian is highlighted. We do not want that. So I'm going to go down to the third row, move over to the right to degree, enter, and now it's using degrees. So let's determine what values of x that we're going to be using here. So let's use 0 degrees, 30 degrees, 60, 90, 120, 150, and I think we're going to do some more here. So we're going to have to continue our table over here. Let's do 180 degrees, 210, 240, 270, 300, 330 degrees, and 360 degrees. So now in our calculator, start with the 0, so I'm going to do cosine of 0 degrees. That's going to give me 1. Cosine of 30 degrees. So we want this to 2 decimal places, so it's going to be 0.87. Cosine 60 degrees, 0.50. Cosine 90 degrees is 0. Cosine 120 degrees is negative 0.50. Cosine of 150 degrees is negative 0.87. Cosine 180 degrees is negative 1. Cosine 210 degrees is negative 0.87. We're starting to see some numbers repeating itself. Cosine of 240 degrees, negative 0.5. Cosine 270 degrees is 0. Cosine 300 degrees is 0.50. Cosine 330 degrees is 0.87. And then finally, cosine of 360 degrees is positive 1. Okay. So now they want us to plot the points. So when x equals 0, y equals 1. When x equals 30, so that will be there, 30, 60, 90, 30, right, is 0.87. So this goes up by 2, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So that's 0.8. So it's going to be somewhere over here. When x is 60 degrees, which is right there, is 0.5, which is going to be right in the middle right there. At 90 degrees, it's 0. At 120 degrees, it's negative 0.5. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. Negative 0.5, which is right there. At 150 degrees, is negative 0.87. Maybe about there. At negative 180 degrees, it's negative 1. At 210 degrees, it's negative 8.7, so we're back right there. And of course, we're going to be getting a sinusoidal function here. At 240 degrees, we're at negative 0.5. At 270 degrees, it was 0. At 300 degrees, we are at 0.5. At 330 degrees, we're at 0.87. And at 360 degrees, we are at 1. Okay, so we can see this clear sinusoidal function here. Next, they want us to graph y equals cosine of x on our graphing calculator with the following window settings. So there is our graphing calculator. We're going to go into our y equal menu, and we're going to be entering y1 equals cosine of x, closing bracket. Now I can go ahead and graph this, and I'll see something that doesn't look like a sinusoidal function. So we need to change our window settings here. So if we take a look at our x, we want the x-axis to go from negative 360 up to 540, and we want the increment along the x-axis to be 30. So if we go into window settings, we want our x-min to be negative 360. We want our x-max to be 540. And we want our x-scale to be 30. And then for y, we want our minimum y value to be negative 1.2. Negative 1.2. We want our maximum y value to be 1.2. And we want the scale along the y-axis to be 0.2. Now if we graph it, we can see our sinusoidal function. So we've essentially zoomed in along the y-axis. Okay, so there's our sinusoidal function. And then the last step here is to complete the graph by joining the points. So it's going to be along something like this. So we're going to go like this. Okay, like that. Now you could extend the graph in our graphing calculator our minimum x value is 360, so it actually goes all the way down to here. Now, if we look at our graph here, we see that at negative 360, our y value is 1. So we could sketch it out here a bit further. Now, it's going to be a little bit hard to sort of tell what the values along the x-axis here are. But if this is 1, essentially this part of the graph here is going to be symmetrical to this graph here. And we see that when we start at 1, if we go 90 degrees to the right, from 0 to 90 degrees, we have gone down from 1 to 0. So we can use the same reasoning over here. So if we go from 360 degrees, 90 degrees to the right, we're going to end up at 270. So this should be 0. If we continue at 90 degrees from 90 to 180, now we're down at negative 1. So if we do the same thing over here, we should have negative 1 over here. Okay. And then we're coming back. There's going to be 0, and then we join up here. So we can continue like that. And of course, we can extend it this way as well. So we start at 1 at 360 degrees. If we increase it by 90, we end up at 450, and that should be 0. If we increase from 450 to 540, we should be at negative 1. And if we look at our calculator, we can see that that is supported. This point right there is 540 degrees, and it's at negative 1. So it should continue like that.